Okay, my story today comes out of Idaho. It's out of Law 360, and the headline is Due Process Claims Okayed in Suit Over Idaho Pot User List. Now, when I read this yesterday, what piqued my attention was that a woman who was pregnant, she went to the hospital, delivered her baby, and they drug tested her, and she had THC in her system, and the shit literally hit the fan then, because they have a child abuser registry in Idaho, and under their laws, if you are positive for a controlled substance that is not prescribed for you, then you're going to be placed on this registry. It's a level 2 violation, and it's 10 years you're going to be on this registry. This
Wow.
woman goes in, has a baby, tests positive, and she gets notified, hey, you're positive. And the positive test is reviewed by a bureaucrat who says, yep, you're positive. You're going to be on the registry. He makes an administrative appeal, which is not really appeal, but she questions it. Another bureaucrat says, nope, the test is positive, and now you're on the registry. Before you can even appeal this to an attorney or some hearing officer or to the court, she's already on the registry because she pissed positive. Okay? So she sued, and she sued the guy who was the director of the Idaho Health and Welfare. Um, and she attacked this on many avenues, but due process is where the court said, "Nah, I'm not gonna let this go forward like this." Now, we've talked about in the past where when you file a complaint, there's a stage called the pleading stage. You can either answer the complaint, or in this, you file what we call a demur, or in this case, in federal court, it's a 12B6 motion to dismiss. You assume everything in the complaint is correct, and then you look for whether there's enough pled for a viable cause of action. The court threw most of her complaint out, but found that there was a due process problem here. And they parsed this out a bit, and they pointed out that the statute in question, the one for child abusers, was specifically designed to protect children from someone who has abused them. If you abuse a child, you're going to be on this registry, and depending on the level of abuse, could be for 10 years. And the court looked at this and said, hang on, even though Idaho law says we're going to protect the preborn, nobody passed a law to connect preborn to this child abuse registry. They said until a child is born, it doesn't qualify for this. Okay? And so that was a big statement coming out of a federal court. They took a look at the fundamental rights involved here, and they found that this is not a traditional fundamental right. It's more under the right of privacy, which is where pregnancy and reproductive rights have been fought for a while. They said we're going to let this go forward under what we call a rational basis test. And when you question constitutionally some action by a state, the court looks at what is the fundamental right that's involved, and that's where they begin their inquiry. And since this was not a traditional fundamental right, they held it to the lowest level of scrutiny, which means if the state can show that the action is rationally related to a legitimate state interest, then the state wins. The other end of the spectrum is that a fundamental right, the state has to prove that their actions were necessary to protect a critical state, a fundamental state interest, okay? And the state typically loses those. Well, this is going to go forward under the rational basis test, and the federal judge pointed out this has got some rational basis problems. One of them is that to hold that smoking weed is going to put you on this list, no one's looking at tobacco and alcohol as dangers to that child. There's a disconnect here. If the reason you're doing this is we don't want health issues with the unborn child, and you need to take a look at alcohol and tobacco because they are proven fetal toxins. You don't know anybody with fetal alcohol syndrome, you haven't been looking hard because it's a problem for children. And that was pointed out, and I was a bit surprised the federal judge going to point that out. He also stated boldly that her use was medical. This woman during pregnancy had what they call hyperemesis gravitorum, which means she puked her guts out because she's pregnant, so she smoked some weed. But in Idaho, it wasn't legal. So there's when she falls down the trap. So the court's going to let this go forward. And now we're going to go into discovery, and there's probably going to be some more motions filed with evidence put in front of the court, try to prove that this is a viable law by the state, or to prove on the point of this woman that this is nonsense and it doesn't satisfy the rational basis test. So we'll watch this. And after the results of last night's vote for abortion rights in Ohio, some of these decisions are going to take on more importance as we go further down the line. This got my attention as you can't go after people for smoking weed. Okay. It's like employment, pregnancy rights, things like that. That was why I got into this. But after the results of the election and you read this thing, there's a lot more issues here at stake. So that's, I'm going to throw it back at you guys. What do you all think about this?
Man,
Yeah, it's going to be problems down the line. If you have, if you do this, we're on the cusp of federal legalization over the next few years and everything. And I hope these judges that are putting forward these rulings keep that in mind, because there's gonna be a shit ton of appeals and a shit ton of just like backlash for this, like within a year or two. And you're marking somebody. You're essentially ruining somebody's life going forward. Just putting a scarlet letter on them right out the jump. It's not fair.
Well, and that
they're
was one of
ruining the
arguments.
mother's. They're ruining the mother's life, and they're ruining the baby's life at the start of it by not keeping the family unit together. So this is a travesty all around.
They're causing way more harm than the cannabis was causing in the first place.
Yeah.
If you're a human being and this position comes, this situation comes in front of you, and in your idea of common sense is to punish this woman for 10 years because she was smoking cannabis for whatever reason, there's something wrong with you.
Stone, that's just the thing, Stone, is we don't know that she was smoking cannabis and then just consuming cannabis while on pregnancies. Like if a woman ate an edible for, say, her back or something, that's not a definitive proof that it does any harm to the fetus. Now, I do not advocate smoking anything while a woman is pregnant. That obviously deprives the fetus of oxygen and causes all kinds of damage. But just because somebody tests positive for cannabis does not mean that the fetus was harmed in the process. I want to make that clear. Just so, I didn't mean to interrupt you, brother, but we sometimes miss that in these stories.
And and Luke too. There are some cultures.
20-something years ago, a doctor by the name of Melanie Dreyer went to Jamaica and did longitudinal studies on women that were smoking weed like a choo-choo train during pregnancy. The kids met all their marks after birth. There was no deficiencies. And in the longitudinal study, these kids are all normal.
Yep.
And this woman in this story, her kid's normal.
That's exactly what I was going to touch on.
There's no factual basis to go after people like this, okay? Unlike alcohol and tobacco, where it's proven they are harmful to the fetus, cannabis is not. So, I mean, we got to get over the hysteria here, because cannabis is not the hobgoblin people want to make it out to be.
And what about this list too? Like, this list is really crazy. Like, to make somebody have to like register, like almost like a sex offender,
like a sex offender, right?
Like, yeah, that is totally weird to me that you would do that. And you know what? I'm going to say this. I'm going to go on the record and say this, because I know Idaho is going to be one of the last people one of the last soldiers standing, right, in Prohibition. So I'm going to go on the record and say this: if you do make that list is going to be your fucking credit card. Excuse me. That's going to be your credit card. That is going to be the thing, your badge of honor, to say, yo, I was on that Ohio test positive list before any of you guys will. That's your legacy card, Ohio, right there, if you make that list.
Yes. A1 credit.
Oh, boy.
Idaho, I think they're dropping the ball on that, man, being the last, know how many bags of French fries I've smashed with the munchies. And they want to be the big Idaho spud potato state. You know what I'm saying? Like they're missing out. They're missing out on a lot of sales with that.
Bro, Spuds is such a great cannabis brand name.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Dog, think about like the festival that you could do with cannabis and the Idaho potato. Like,
bro, you have everybody smoking joints out of potatoes like it was apples.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, man. You might have
works like a Coke can, right?
Yep. Wait, it's more healthier and it's organic.
A domestic terrorist situation going down. Somebody pulls out a potato gun. saying,
Oh
man.
God,
Different country.
I knew you were going to bring the potato gun into this. I saw that one coming a mile away, Rico.
And
Yeah.
for those of you that grew up in the Central Valley, we know that those can be dangerous.
Oh yeah,
Dude, that's
They
why we
got a
build
few
the
off
shop class.
myself.
Why? What do you guys do? Go
Shop
cow
class.
tipping with potato guns out there?
Oh no, those farmers will blast you with those potato guns.
And any of y'all city slickers out there, man, if any country boy or country girl asks you or invites you to go cow tipping, don't do it.
I don't know. I know. We used to throw parties in San Francisco at different warehouses and whatnot, and they would always be in like the shady Hunters Point area or whatnot, and there was always like a number of different parking lots that would park large scale moving trucks, and we would always just shoot our potato gun at those trucks, and they would make the biggest noise because
Hold
they were
on,
all
hold
hollowed
on,
out
back up.
inside.
Back up. So you're in Hunters Point shooting potato guns
Yeah.
at garbage trucks.
No, more like moving trucks, freight carriers.
At moving trucks.
Yes,
So you're in
yes,
Hunters
yes.
Point shooting a potato gun
Yes.
at moving trucks.
A whole bunch of us too. Yeah, like we were having a rave and
Not
shooting
many
off
people
potato
can say
guns. Yeah.
The statute of
There was no
limitations.
cows to tip, Luke, so he had to do something.
Yeah,
Statute of
there
limitations
are,
does
I
not
don't,
exclude murder. Remember that.
yeah, there's no cows in Hunters Point.
There's no. Well, there is, but you know, whatever. We're gonna keep it moving. We're gonna